In this lesson, we're going to take a quick look at how we can extract some code into a class and how we can introduce parameter objects. Now, there may come a time when you note that your class is doing a couple of different things, and perhaps one of the functions of that class you realize should actually be its own class. So inside of our password data editor, we have a password collection and an array list of passwords, and we're actually also using this to display our GUI. So it might be useful, in this case, to bring some of the functionality for what's going on into its own class. So what we can do is go to Refactor and select Extract Class and determine which fields we want to remove from the password data editor to create a separate class that can thereby manage specific options. So here we want the password collection removed. We need the array list of pair and the current index. So basically what we're going to do is remove the functionality that manages the collection inside of this password data editor or the array list into its own class. And we'll call that password data editor data, which is just going to be the passwords and the current index. We'll also create getters and setters so that we can easily set this information. Now when we select that we want to perform this, note that password data editor data is created, and it will contain our private array list of pair passwords with the current index. We can then easily create one, passing in the information. We can get the passwords, set the passwords, get the current index, and set the current index. And later, if we wanted, we could add a method to simply get the return of the pair value from that specific current index. So what we'll see in password data editor is that array list of pair passwords equals null is removed, along with private int current index equals 0 is removed. Those are combined into the new class password data editor data. Variable data is equal to new password data editor data with null and 0, our default instantiation. So when we do this, what we end up seeing is there's actually a lot of changes in our code, because now we have removed the current index variable as well as the passwords and abstracted them into their own class. So every time we need to reference that, we call that data variable to set the passwords, get the passwords. Here we can create a new set passwords as a new array list of pair. And you can see throughout the code different places where this password abstraction has taken place. And now we're able to get at current index data.getPasswords rather than directly referencing that variable. And we have our password data editor data class that we can now modify. So we've successfully extracted that class and given ourselves some of that functionality of managing that data into its own encapsulated object, and thereby made it easier to modify our code down the road. Now the other thing I want to look at is going to be introducing a parameter object. If we go back to password data editor and the display item, let's determine that we'd like to add a parameter. So what we can do is create a class that will become a parameter for this method. So we can select the method and we can go to Refactor and select Introduce Parameter Object. And when we do this, the class will be given a name such as Display Item Parameter. Now we can make it nested or top level. And right now there's no fields to select, so it's going to be blank. So it really won't matter if we create getters or create setters. And our parameter object will be the name of the parameter being passed into the method. So we can change this to something else like P, or we could name it DIP, or whatever we want it to be, so that we have a similar, very easy name to work with. You can keep the original method as a delegate, or you can remove it. So when we preview this, what we'll see is what this is going to do is in password data editor, anywhere that display item is called, it will now call display item with a new display item parameter. And the display item parameter is a simple class which contains nothing at this point. And this may not look very big, but if you think forward, you could then modify the display item parameter class and make that an object that is very important in that display item function. And then you would just need to modify the code wherever it's called to make sure that your constructor matches with the passed in parameter information you would like to do. We're not going to go ahead and do this. And so that wraps up our look at extracting one class into a new class to separate some object features, as well as introducing a parameter object as a new class that'll be a parameter to an existing method.